Welcome back, everyone. This is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, here with another video. And I know this has been a long time coming, and with Island Raid coming up, I thought it would be a good idea to go over some of the heroes that I took a look at a while back and see what I think of them now. Some of you have been asking me what I still think of heroes like Thunder, Adut, Elena, even Robert and Eddie, who recently came up a cycle ago. So let's take a look at these heroes and see where they've placed since they came out. First one's on the list, Thunder and Adut. And you've seen me do videos on Thunder before. I can't say enough good about Thunder. When he came about, he changed the garrison meta, and it is still centered around how to make him as good as possible. Whether it be shoring up his offensive capabilities or maxing out his healing and defensive capabilities, Thunder on garrison or as a defensive unit in the field is still a monster. That cannot be denied. So if you don't have Thunder yet in your region and you're about to get him for top commander or something like that, this is one of the heroes to get. Missing out on this one is going to really hamper your ability to either defend yourself or help out your team in the field. So hopefully your region can be nice about making sure as many people in your region have access to this hero. It only benefits them in the long run. Now, Adut, when she first came out, I was so hyped to have such a powerful infantry unit on the field, and she still holds that position simply due to the sheer amount of infantry attack buffs that she gives. If you add everything up, it's 44% from skill number 2 and another 40% while she's above 50% on the field. Which, let's be honest, once your troop gets down to about 50%, you're probably backing off anyway. That is an 84% increase to infantry attack. It may not seem like a lot considering, it is infantry. But it makes them extremely powerful. Now, she is a bit on the squishy side compared to other infantry units, but let's face it, it's still infantry. Hitting her is not easy. Especially when her skill gives her a defense buff for 3 seconds. She has the ability to nullify damage debuffs and heal herself in the process. And she can reduce skill damage to yourself and nearby squads by 20% for 2 seconds. She's got some defensive capabilities, but centering around her offense is amazing. And sadly, until recently, she didn't have a solid pair to go with. You could pair her with Charlie and get a lot of use out of her. You could pair her with Tom, but you're giving up Tom's defensive capabilities for offense. You're not always wrong, but Tom being a tank in arena or on the field is still a better option. So having Adut kind of standing alone on the field, it kind of sucked. But I'll get into how they fixed that later. Next, let's talk about the 2 ranged commanders that came shortly afterwards. Those would be Chun.
I'm a long way from home, but I'm still a daughter of the Jin family.
And Carrie.
Work and no play makes you all dumb.
Zia is still too young
to
understand, Father.
Chun is immensely powerful, but she's still ranged. If you've played with ranged units on the field, you know how quickly they get targeted and how easily they can be killed. And Chun does not help in that respect at all. The silence is kind of nice. Adding a little bit of HP does not shore up the shortcomings that come with ranged. And basically, she is meant to move in, get as much hits as she can before she gets too weak, and then back out. That's entirely what she was designed for. You can run rallies with her. However, if you take a counter rally with Chun, you can kiss those range troops goodbye. A half-assed counter rally will kill a Chun. And while she has that much power behind her, it's kind of hard to use her on the field because of how squishy she is. I'm hoping with one of the new commanders that we can kind of fix that problem. And I'll go into that a little bit later. But hopefully they can give us a more bulky ranged commander to have that option in the field. Now, as far as carry, does he have a job? Yes. Can he do that job very well? Kinda. Once they made Thunder, they realized they needed to have a hero that was capable of hurting Thunder. And while the ideal was there, it fell short. Because, again, they gave it to ranged. Now, ranged is supposed to be better against infantry. Supposed to be. If you've played with them on the field, you know how easily that can turn against you in group combat. 1v1, sure. Range can beat infantry. Not in group combat. And that's primarily what a lot of people fight, especially in Island Raid or in these PvP events. So the idea was to reduce his healing by up to 5 seconds when he was awakened. The 50% reduction in healing for 5 seconds, plus Chun's silence, was supposed to stop his healing and control it so that you could deal damage. There wasn't enough damage output during that time. And for some reason, the healing effect doesn't seem to work to the same effect that we wanted it to. While it is a 50% reduction in healing effect, Thunder is getting so many buffs to his healing and other sources, such as his talents, that 50% isn't as much as you would think. And he has no defensive abilities. He is there to deal damage, weaken Thunder's healing ability. So an increase of 10% to squad defense? That is paltry considering the low defense that ranged units have. So if you're using carry as a siege commander, as just an option to have on the for that, more power to you. If you're not a spender, avoid this. You do not need it at all. Now, getting onto one of the more powerful sets, let's talk about Elena and Jonathan. First, let's just go with the best. Elena is arguably the strongest rider commander out there. I thought she was going to be when she first came out, and personally, that still holds true. Is she as good as the Bella Sven Siege? No. Sadly, she falls a little bit short of both of them when it comes to Siege, but in the open field, this one is a monster. The damage output, the flanking ability, the reducing damage by 22%, chance of reducing damage by 22%. She has solid defensive buffs on riders, which already have a pretty nice defense to go with it. But she increases damage, she increases her defense, and she has one of the highest single target damage effects in the game. So there's really not a lot you could go wrong with here. Plus, she's sitting on the skill talent tree, so she's boosting herself that much more. Sadly, she's not really a leader. A lot of times you'll see Bella run with Elena, but not a lot wrong there because Bella's running skills too. So Bella Elena is a destructive combo for riders in the field. And it can run rallies, just know that Sven is a little bit better in that regard. Now,
I'm an aerospace engineer.
has anyone seen this hero? I'm being perfectly honest. Since he came out, I have seen him maybe twice on the field. And while I completely understand, I was a little bit surprised when he has an HP reduction on his skill. But because it's limited to only rallies, it kills him. If he wasn't locked to being a counter rally commander, I feel like he would be a lot better. But because they wanted to build this commander that was built for counter rallies, that was supposed to be hitting the ranged rallies that they had supposedly created, because let's be honest, they didn't, he would have been great. But reducing counter damage and reducing HP on a rally on rallies that probably aren't going to let you hit them anyway. I mean, common tactic is to hit the target for about 5 minutes, get as many kills as you can right before the counter rally hits, dip. Especially for non-whale players. I know you whales and Boone and HMB love to draw these rallies out because you have the power to do that. But us littler people, if we run a rally and we see a counter rally hit us, unless we plan on launching another rally at yours, it doesn't help us to keep that rally going. We're probably going to lose out on our trades, so we'll cancel it. So he's useless to us. This commander is absolutely useless. He has a lot of effects that, if they weren't locked down to rallies, would be pretty effective. I mean, having the 25% increase to squad attack, the second part's useless. A basic attack chance to reduce skill damage received, and if in alliance territory, causes additional damage. Again, counter rallies. When you defeat squads, recover own HP, which was designed for counter rallies because you were supposed to be able to kill the people that were trying to swarm your counter rally. And then upping his damage. But I think with a little bit of tweaking away from the counter rally, he could be great. But I personally have only seen him maybe twice since he came out months ago. Now, the last two that I can do an in-depth look in are Eddie and Robert. Now, if you watched my video on Eddie and Robert, you know how skeptical I was of Robert. Do I think he's better than Eddie? No. Am I thoroughly surprised at what he's capable of doing on the field? Absolutely. You know, other than sick-ass guitar solos. He has a lot more power behind him than I expected. And I'll admit, I'm abusing that 25%. He's got a higher damage factor than a Dut does. Reduces the target's HP by 25% for 2 seconds, which fits right into following up with another 12,000 damage factor and a squad defense buff. Robert, for me, has filled that hole that I needed for a solid infantry offense team. Robert Adut is a single target menace. And while I only built this skill here to test out its effectiveness, because I wanted to see what that 2400 skill damage shield factor would do back when I was testing shields, I've known that it does help in group combats. Yes, it only triggers once every 6 seconds, but you and an ally are going to negate an entire single round of combat once every 6 seconds. And I've found that it does help. Is it a lot? No. But I'm still genuinely surprised at how effective it is. Coupled with the fact that I deal damage based on the amount of damage absorbed by my shield. So it just increases my damage a little bit more. Plus, this feels like it goes off far more often than I expected. And it does affect every target hitting him. Granted, he doesn't have the defensive capability to be swarmed, but if he's hit by multiple targets, he's going to deal 3,600, if it's maxed out, of course, 3,600 damage factor over 3 seconds to every person hitting him once every 6 seconds, which is a round and a half of combat on top of what he's already doing. And if he's paired with a Dut, that is 44 plus 40 plus 20. That is a 104% increase to infantry attack. At my level, that is a 33% increase to damage, not counting armaments or anything else. I haven't even talked about the skill tree or the infantry squad buffs. That's a 104% increase to infantry squad attack. It's honestly been surprising. I will continue to run Robert with a Dud until they make something better, which I will be stocking up until the next infantry cycle, which will probably be in about, with the first top commander down, I've got 5 more, so about 10 weeks. About 10 weeks, 2.5 months, stocking up to get those infantry heroes. But Eddie, now I haven't built him up, but I've been watching him in combat, and he's delivered exactly what we expected him to deliver. He allows for an infantry siege to be effective and be extremely hard to counter or swarm. If Jonathan wasn't useless before, Jonathan can't hurt this one. He comes with his own shield for 2 seconds, which negates an entire round of combat, plus 1100 damage on top of it. He's got the infantry squad buff. While this 15% is nice in rallies, having the additional 44 on top of it is massive, because counter damage is most of what infantry units do. Pair him with another unit that boosts his attack or boosts his counter damage, and you've got a unit that you're only going to want to take on 1v1, and even then it's still going to hurt. Plus, he has another 30% infantry squad HP buff. While the second part of the skill is locked down to sieges, it does reduce enemy squad HP by 25% for 2 seconds every 6 seconds. 20% chance happens a lot, so you're expected to have that happen every 7 to 8 seconds. Paired with Robert, since they do stack, they don't negate each other. That is an HP debuff a lot of the time, and if that wasn't enough, whenever the shield is broken or disappeared, it reduces the HP of up to 3 nearby enemy squads by 20% for 2 seconds. Putting him on the field around other people to abuse that HP debuff on people that are hitting him does wonders for the damage output of your team. I've watched it. Does the rally itself do as well as you would want, say, your rider rally or your ranged rally to do? No, it doesn't do the damage. But they're not going to counter it. They're not going to swarm it, because that's where you get your kills. And eventually, infantry will outlast weaker units. It just does. So Eddie has been just a powerhouse to witness on the field and in rallies, especially for infantry-minded people who have truly focused into infantry as hard as I have, at least. Now, we did get the 2 new ranged commanders. I have not had a chance to look at how these work. It just completed yesterday, so I haven't seen either of these heroes in combat yet. I will be looking at how they're going to do in Island Raid, because let's be honest, some of the whales already have them awakened. They have nothing else to use their relics on. But while I fully expect Jacob to be used in garrisons alongside Thunder because of the insane damage output that he's capable of, increasing on counter damage, having a nice AoE damage factor of higher than Lewis, increasing all damage when garrisoning, damage to 3 squads every 8 seconds, reduces the attack, and another damage buff pretty much at all times. I think that he might replace Lewis on garrisons. Now, granted, you'll be able to hit this tower or shelter from behind without taking too much damage, but I still think he's going to replace it, especially against rallies. But I'm honestly more curious about Julia. I've been talking to some people, and while I was skeptical about how she's going to be used, looking at her a little bit more in depth, I have been curious about some things. One, as much as I touted the infantry squad attack from Adut and Robert, I wanted to sleep on the sheer 40% buff to ranged squad HP here. Coupled with the 20% increase to ranged defense, 20% increase to ranged attack, 40% increase to ranged squad HP, pair her with Chun, and you've got 60% increase to HP, 40% to ranged attack, and you've got a solid ranged unit on the field. Theoretically. She reduces the damage from basic attacks. She's still taking full damage from skills, so you have to care about positioning. Increases skill damage by a moderate amount. And this, if she can control the silence on the enemy that she wants to silence, and then you couple that with Chun's ability to silence, even if it is randomly, there's an opportunity for impromptu stun locking, or silence locking if you want to call it that, to lock down enemies by silencing them after the first skill hit, controlling them for about 6 seconds, and as soon as they hit you again, silence them all over again. So she can kind of negate skill damage, reduces basic attack damage, has solid defense and HP buffs, and the attack power is nothing to scoff at. Okay rage recovery, okay damage, buffed again when she's awakened. I feel like she can be placed with a powerful ranged unit to make it bulkier. And if it's as bulky as I'm hoping it to be, you might see a hard to take down ranged unit on the field, which would be amazing. Well, I think I've rambled on long enough. I went over 8 heroes and what I think of what they're going to do here with Island Raid coming up tomorrow. And I can do a separate video on what I think of that pair up later, but I wanted to get this video out. I've still got a couple of videos I've been working on. I apologize for playing so much Baldur's Gate 3 that I haven't been able to make videos for you all. I will try and do better about that, or at least splitting up my time, because you all deserve to have as much information about the game to enjoy it. I want you all to enjoy this game. But with that, this is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, signing off.